Lions Rock Productions.
This is Popping the Bubble with hosts Sandra Ponce de Leon and Pete A. Turner.
Hi, I'm Krystal Lauk here in San Francisco. I'm the CEO and founder of Krystal Lauk Studios, and we're listening to Popping the Bubble.
Hey, Krystal. Thank you so much for having me here in your beautiful home in San Francisco. It's really lovely to finally have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And talk about what you're doing, because we haven't had an artist on, a real live artist.
Well, it's about time.
It is about time. It is about time. Yeah, we know each other. We're friends, and I admire your designs. I love them. They are always coming across my Facebook feed. So I'd love to just, kind of dive in. Like, how did you become an artist?
Oh gosh, well, I knew that I wanted to be an artist since a very tender age, right? Like it's all I wanted to do.
Really?
And so, I feel really lucky that path was already kind of like driven out for me in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like no questions about what I wanted to do. There were definitely a lot of questions about, oh God, how do I get there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was certainly a challenge.
And you always liked to draw, like from a young age, and this was something your parents encouraged you to pursue as well?
So it's something that I definitely did all the time
Mm-hmm.
at a young age. I think definitely, during high school, I was in like AP, advanced placement arts and, things like that. But I think my parents were still very like, is that really what she's like gonna get into?
Mm-hmm.
We're a little scared, of course. So I'm sure there was a lot of hesitations around that and a lot of fears. I eventually started at Arizona State University, my hometown, doing a painting degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about halfway in, I kind of realized, what am I doing? Like, where am I really going to go with this? And I knew that I wanted to do more commercial art. I wanted to do illustration.
Mm-hmm.
For that, I knew that I had to go to a major city. And around that time, my boyfriend at the time was from here.
Mm-hmm.
And he took me to a few trips to the Bay Area, and I just fell in love. Like, this was my city.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I eventually ended up here and ended up at the Academy of Art University
Mm-hmm.
and going through their illustration program. And that took a really, really long time because San Francisco is expensive.
Yeah.
When you're
And the Academy of Art is super expensive.
Is really, really expensive, yeah. But eventually I made it work. And I met my now husband during like my final year of school. And I was like, what is all this like tech? This is so weird, and all the jargon. I was so intimidated by all of his friends.
Really?
Yes. But then I had this one friend. I always tell the story just because I feel like it was like a prophecy. Was one of my friends was like, one day those people are all going to be your clients.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up happening.
Oh my gosh.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the work that you do for clients, and it's so cool to see tech companies that are embracing this style that is, your style is, I think, really like friendly and cute, lighthearted, whimsical, I would say. You definitely like cats, which I love.
Yes. They've kind of rubbed off on me.
Yeah, and we'll be linking back to, your site, and so people can actually see your designs,
cool.
which are super fun. It's, talk about that, how, tech is embracing this sort of, new original look and feel, and what you provide with these companies.
Yeah, so I think because it's just a wonderful way, illustration is such a wonderful way to bring humanity to tech, to kind of remind us that we're human through this really like kind of delightful approach. It's also a really great way for tech companies to set their brand apart from each other. It's no longer just about the interface, and I think a lot of web design has gotten to a point where we've perfected a lot, right? Over a short amount of time. But now, how do you bring that kind of personality and character and just the edge to it? And illustration is really where it's at, and it's really cool to see tech companies embracing that.
What are some of the companies that you think are really doing it well?
Well, Google obviously is like the end all, and I was fortunate to work with Google Play for a couple years, and that was an awesome experience. Doing illustration every day for them, and to that point, like specifically with Google Play, creating campaigns that that had this global presence, but yet you had to create localized illustrations for all these different countries, for India or South Korea and Japan, and all of them have their own like cultural sensibilities. And illustration is a great way to show that and show diversity and inclusion, and so that was really cool. So Google Play is one. Intercom is another really fun brand. Especially just love going to their blog page, and I just recently did an editorial illustration with them. And they are really kind of pushing the boundaries and doing some really exciting experimental design. That's great. Dropbox is another one, which gained some controversy around this time last year.
Really?
With their brand. Yeah, a lot of people, I think, were kind of maybe kind of hated it, or it was like overwhelming. It was a lot, but I felt like I loved the boldness that they showcased with that, and I feel like that's kind of the next steps that we'll be taking.
Cool. So what's your typical process? What's your typical process when you and we've got a cat in the background doing some funny things that cats do, and now one on the table.
This is my life every day.
Yeah, they really just don't care. They just are gonna walk all over your computer and interrupt you, but that's okay because we love them. Yeah, so getting back to the question, what's your typical process when you engage with a client or a tech company? Like, how do you get at the essence of what their brand is and how you want to convey that?
Well, for example, like the client that I'm working for now, Blend, that's a mortgage lending platform company, and so they have a very different demographic. It's a lot of bankers and lenders. It's a little bit more of a serious business. It's not so consumer facing, and so you still have to be super friendly and approachable, right? But you also have to be a lot more sophisticated and professional in the way you do things. How the kind of color palette translates, or is it, edge over curve? All of these kind of design choices play a bigger part in the feeling and the character of the brand.
And are you like helping to actually personify their brand and bring some characters to life for them?
Yeah, I'm really there to kind of improve right now. They kind of have they already have like an illustration style in place, but it needs to be, I'm there to improve it.
Moved forward. Yes.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. What are the kinds of clients that you love to work with the best?
Oh gosh, Facebook was a really exciting one.
Cool.
That I worked with a couple years ago. It was for a project called Cultural Moments, which you see quite often now, but I was able to do kind of some of the first illustrations for that, and it was a lot like the Google Doodles for Facebook, really, where it was different holidays, right, and different events around the world.
So when you're engaged in a project like that, where do you go for inspiration?
Oh gosh, well, I'm always looking at other artists. it's always really great to see what other people are kind of doing in the space. Pinterest is really my all-time favorite.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Favorite thing. And I think just like observing just kind of what's going on, the trends of society, and it all kind of like plays a part.
Yeah. Oh, so talk a little bit about, so you got out of school, then you started doing this work. Now you've got your own company. What's that like? I mean, because you really have moved from artist to now entrepreneur, and you kind of now have a sense of what also these startup entrepreneurs are going through.
Yeah, yes, I do. And it's something that I didn't even know before, was that there's a business psychology.
Right.
And certain things mentally that you have to overcome. Yeah, recently I pivoted into more of a boutique agency, and now hired on as a subcontractor one of my good friends, who's a motion graphics designer. So that was really great to be able to expand my services, and yeah, continue serving more clients. And that was a big first leap. There's always that kind of like, feast or famine mentality, but at the same time, there's this awesome feeling of like, I am so in control of my own destiny.
Yeah.
And everything is what I make it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, so like, just go for it.
Absolutely.
And so that's been kind of an awesome growth journey for me.
Yeah, yeah. What have been some of the challenges along the way?
Oh gosh, that's a kicker of a question. I think obviously, working from home has been quite isolating. And so trying to focus more on building community and co-working, and and getting yourself out there a little bit more. you know, Nobody can really kind of design in a bubble. And yeah, and asking for help, I think that has been like a big challenge. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs face, right? And so that's been a really great lesson to me, in realizing that the more that I just ask for help and ask questions, and people are willing to lend a hand.
That's great. Yeah. What's one of the favorite designs that you've done recently? What are you like in love with in terms of your work right now?
I really like the illustration I did for Intercom, for example.
And what was that? I
Felt
have
like
to
I
check it out.
had a lot more freedom
Yeah.
with that. There was literally no art direction involved, which was really kind of fun but intimidating as well. They were like, "Yeah, that's great. I love that concept. Just go for it."
Is this yours?
No, no.
Okay.
It's where you go into the blog, and you
Okay,
see
let's check it out. Let's see if I
you
can
see a
find
lot
it.
of different illustrations. Yeah, and that's something that you can see on my website.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, these really cool little question marks and thumbs up designs, or
No, that one I did maybe like a couple months back. So
okay.
yeah.
Maybe I should just go to your site actually.
Yeah, I think
Krystal Lauk. Okay, so it's spelled
that's just KrystalLauk.com.
Lauk. And so we'll talk about the design that you did for them, because you loved.
Well, it was really just like a quick one, but I loved how I got to be a little bit more experimental, and I was just offered a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Another one that I really enjoyed was for Status.im. So that's a cryptocurrency startup. specifically for Ethereum. We did a really cool contribute to the status community infographic.
I see it. It is really cool.
And I loved like the idealism that's coming out of the cryptocurrency space, right?
It's so true.
And so I really got to do that. I think the way that I love to approach things, and I think the thing that makes the most sense, especially for tech companies and high concepts, is to go after that high vision, like, okay, what is your purpose and your mission, like at the root of it? And, for example, for, cryptocurrency, it's a lot about the decentralization, right? And it's about like people taking back the power economically, and so being able to kind of show that with something that's kind of a complex concept, everybody can kind of understand those values.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually looking at the design right now, and it's kind of like this Earth, like a Earth and moon or spacey, like plus people. It's moons. It's really, really cool. I like it. It's almost like this, it gives me a feeling of like one of these like Mother Earth birthing visuals almost.
Yeah, that's intended.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I'm seeing the right thing then. Yeah, I love it. It's so cool. That is awesome. I know that you recently also, went to Burning Man. I saw one of your illustrations from Burning Man. Was that a source of inspiration for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Burning Man had a lot of its challenges. You're kind of like dropped into this super unsustainable world with tons of people, and you're kind of asked to drop everything you know about just your routine, right, in society, and go from there. And so that was cool. It was really overwhelming at first, but when you kind of get over that hump,
it's kind of like you have to get to that point of surrender, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like letting go of control.
We're letting go of control and kind of really embracing the heart of like who you are and what you want to do in the moment, and kind of all those things where in the real world, right, you're just always tethered by obligations. And so it was very liberating. But yeah, it's also kind of overwhelming to give into that liberation, right? So it was really, really fun, and I loved the serendipity of all of it. How, what they have a saying, like, the playa provides.
Right.
And it's so true. Like, whatever your heart is feeling in that moment, all you have to do is like wander around a little bit, and somehow you find exactly what you need.
A piece of bacon will arrive, or a champagne snow cone.
Like that workshop that like really changed your perspective on things that you needed. So it was a really great experience, and it was really great going with my husband as well. And it was a great relationship booster for us.
That's
awesome.
Really I love it. You guys didn't decide to get married again on the playa?
No.
Because there are wedding chapels, plenty of them.
Oh yeah. We saw people getting married.
That's cool.
And we'll definitely go again next year. It's just so funny, we're like a month out or so from Burning Man, and it almost like in my mind it feels like just this like fantasy memory, right, of things that like happened, and I know that okay, I'll go back there next year, but now it's just like it's this hazy fantastical memory. It's weird.
Did it impact your design, do you think?
Yeah, I think in terms of like taking more risks and maybe kind of being a little, inviting myself to be a little bit more experimental and playful, instead of kind of being like stressed out by, oh, what, what am I supposed to do? I think that made a pretty big difference.
Very cool. What's your process like? Do you do sketches, like hand sketching, and then translate that to digital?
Yeah, pretty much. The iPad Pro is really great for that. So
Mm-hmm.
I love using an app called Adobe Sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a lot of my rough thumbnails in there, and then those rough, thumbnails become, I choose like the best concepts, and then those become the refined sketches, and then those ultimately go into Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and that kind of becomes the final product.
Mm. And do you still do painting or any kind of fine art?
I wanted to, and that was the cool thing about Burning Man was the craft side of it and
Mm-hmm.
preparing, right? So I was like, oh man, I think I'm going to do this illustration like on my jacket, and and different like little projects like that was really fun, and I gotta get back into that
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because you really have taken your passion and you've made a business out of it. I mean, how does that impact your passion? Because I know that many years ago, I also decided to try to make a business of my passion, which was making jewelry at
Hmm.
the time. And what happened for me was that it kind of killed it a little bit because I really liked just creating unique things that kind of came out of me versus having to do something over and over and over again. And I know it's different for design because you make unique designs, but has that had any kind of impact on, you've made your passion your work, and which is awesome. But like,
Hmm.
yeah, how do you feel about that?
It's like my entire life.
Yeah.
It's like who most of my friends are.
Mhm.
Like all of my friends are illustrators. We all hang out together. We all like have parties, and it's a big, it's a tight-knit community. And everything is just like interlaced. I think just like trying to do more personal work,
Mhm.
that definitely helps.
Mhm.
So you can see a lot of my personal work at just crystaljaws.com.
Okay.
So krystalllauk.com is all my commercial stuff. Crystal Jaws is all my personal and gallery work.
Mhm. Yeah, and have you had a show, an actual art show, and with your designs?
Yeah, I've had several. So I used to show quite a bit with Sketchpad Gallery, which was amazing, and I garnered so many awesome friends and relationships from that.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they had to shut down their doors like a couple months ago. So, oh man, I would love to reach out and see if any other galleries are interested in
Mhm. Mhm.
finding another community. So.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, do you find that that's also another medium that you enjoy in terms of having your work like be sold and people being able to display it on their walls
Yeah,
versus just
absolutely. Like
digitally?
something that I especially really enjoyed about Sketchpad Gallery was they focused a lot on pop culture themes.
Mhm.
So one of them was like leading ladies, right? Like leading ladies in movies.
Mhm.
And it's something that people can relate to. It's another aspect, because I think so many times you think of art galleries and they're almost like intimidating, right, for people who aren't really in the art world.
Mhm.
But when it's something to do with pop culture, if it's something that's off of a theme of a movie, and it's got something that has a cult following too, like people love it and they feel like it's approachable and then they can embrace it.
Mhm.
So I love that aspect.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think that the surprising thing here as I'm looking around your place is that I don't see any of your artwork here.
No, I hate having my artwork on the walls because I think every artist can relate to this. Is every piece I make, there's always something where I'm like, oh, I would have changed that, or, it's like a constant evolution,
Mhm.
so I guess like every piece is like never good enough in that way. I'd rather like turn my admiration to
Mhm.
other artists and
Mhm.
support them.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that makes it easier for letting go of it as well.
That's another huge aspect, and that's why I'm really into things like street art, for example,
Mhm.
is that is that it could be gone the next day. Like, I love that aspect of nothing is precious, and the moment that something dies, another thing can be created, right?
Yeah. Did you like what Banksy did?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was pretty
absolutely. I
amazing.
loved that. I loved
Yeah.
that. And I guess that's a total like Burning Man value too, right? That's
Yeah.
why they burn everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, yeah. Who is your favorite artist other than you?
Ah, man, this sounds like so canned like now because I mean, I've been saying this like since the age of 14, but I still really, really love James Jean. And I will be that total like hipster who says, "Oh, well, I liked James Jean before he was big."
James
So,
Jane or Jean?
James Jean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And is he a modern artist?
He's a modern artist, and I feel like he's one of these artists
Very cool.
who will live in museums like way after he dies. Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah. Wow. Very incredible.
And
Yeah.
he's really the one that uh, that inspired me to get into illustration. He's more fine art now, but
Mhm.
when I found him, he was doing a lot of illustration work, and it was kind of like the first lens in which I was like, I could do this. I want to be that.
Incredible. Very, very cool artwork. Yeah. So what do you have on the horizon? What's next for you?
I think continuing to grow my business and hire more illustrators, and
Mhm.
I love giving a lot of illustrators kind of the chance to get more into this tech industry.
Mhm.
It's really well paying, and there's a real need out there.
Mhm.
And I think just like that ultimate mission to bring delight and humanity to the interface is something that I like take on board really seriously. So um, yeah, so growing my agency.
And I love that you're really like bridging these two worlds because I think that, well, the bros and the tech bros get a really bad rap in San Francisco because they have driven, rent prices up. It's very hard to be an artist in San Francisco. So I love that you're really kind of, bringing these two worlds together that, there has been historically some animosity amongst.
That is so true.
Hmm.
That is so true, but I think it's inevitable that it'll really become more of this like democratic thing. Like it has to be. It's so
Hmm.
big.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of my artist friends who are, getting jobs in Facebook and Stripe and a lot of these tech companies, um, they're changing the culture from the inside, and uh yeah, just changing that lens. So
Hmm.
it's exciting.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love to see that the tech community is embracing artists, and
Mhm.
it's needed for life. We need art.
Exactly. And I think that's why I'm still so hopeful for San Francisco, and I'm still very much in love with the city to,
Hmm.
bring things back to to the beginning. So
Hmm. Hmm. Very cool. This has been such a great conversation. So awesome to get to know you a little bit better and, learn about your art more. And, I work a lot with tech companies. And so, maybe I can bring you some opportunities. It would be so fun to see what you do for a company that I'm, consulting with or working with.
that's really exciting. There's so many startups out here that it's dizzying, right? And so
Yeah.
every time you get introduced to one, you're like, oh man, you're doing that? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and these companies, they're, engineer driven, and they just don't think about how, visuals are so important
Yeah.
to their brand. But
Yeah.
then once they see it, that's when they recognize and the aha moments go off.
Yeah, exactly. I think to really put it that way, because I talked a lot about illustration, in terms of helping brand and being delightful and approachable. But I think one of the biggest things is that illustration is limitless, and when you're dealing with really high, complicated concepts like
Hmm.
you see in tech, um, that becomes a really powerful tool.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, you need to have a way to approach these complex subjects, and a visual language is just, we're visual people. So, yeah, very cool. Well, yeah, love what you do. Keep doing it. I can't wait to see more coming from you. And thanks so much for having me here in your lovely home.
Thank you.